And that's what you told us matters. Learn more at buildingalbertaplan.ca.
Chocolates and sweets that fill trick-or-treat loot bags usually make their way next to backpacks and lunches. Some schools, like this one in Toronto, are now going as far as banning treats and searching for contraband candy.
If we do find something, for example, a box of Smarties or a Kit Kat bar, we will just kindly ask the student to take it home.
From chocolate, you can get fatter and you can get diabetes.
It can ruin your teeth really bad.
Do bans improve kids' eating habits? Should parents alone monitor goodies? What is the best way to teach our children about treats?
Scary subject. We'll ask some experts for answers this Halloween. Judy Arnall is a certified parent educator with Professional Parenting Canada, and Andrea Holwegner is a registered dietitian with Health Stand Nutrition Consulting. Welcome both of you to Alberta Primetime. Thank you for being here. Judy, let me start with you. There's the trend of school bans. One Edmonton mom is also protesting a similar policy at her daughter's junior high here in Alberta. Are schools treading on parents' rights?
Well, I don't think so, because schools actually act in substitution for parents during their child's day. So if the school makes some rules on banning treats, they're no different than parents who ban the treats at home. So it's not an approach I would take. I prefer to educate kids and on good eating habits, but schools do have the right to dictate what they're going to do when they're supervising kids.
Andrea, do you have thoughts on the school bans? What do you think as a dietitian?
Well, I think the biggest thing to keep in mind is there's a difference between limiting and avoiding. And, you know, anytime we're talking about food, I like to take the approach that there's no bad foods, there's just bad diets. And so outright banning entire, categories of food, to me, doesn't teach our kids and doesn't teach parents that we're really trying to encourage a healthy relationship with food. We want kids to eat both healthful foods, but we also want them to still have some fun and be able to learn to manage and regulate consumption of some of those higher sugar and higher junk food types of foods that they're going to be coming in contact with wherever they go through life.
So, Andrea, could an outright ban actually have the reverse effect as intended and maybe even make things a little bit worse?
You know what, there's a real general sort of, thought in the psychology field that we all want what we can't have. And so when we starve a child of, whether it's, affection, I'm sure you would agree with this, they will seek it out. And so if we starve them of enjoyable foods, and sometimes they're going to go to their neighbor's house and be faced with, a box full of cookies. And the last thing we want to have happen is have your kid not have any of those things, let's say either at home or at school, and go to a neighbor's house and literally eat 20 cookies at a time.
Judy,
I've seen that. They go crazy.
Could parents, Judy, could parents who are relying on a school to help them control their kids' consumption, could they be struggling with that challenge at home? We probably need to be consistent, don't we?
Well, no. Kids are quite resilient in deciding or knowing that there are different rules for different places. So there's different food rules at daycare versus dad's house or mom's house or grandma's house. And parents, I think, all too often try and push on schools to be the parent and enforce what they can't or have trouble with at home. So it's sometimes parents need a little more education. Definitely, we teach parents about the feeding relationship, which is a division of roles between what the parent controls and what the child controls. And it was devised by Alan Satter, and it basically says that the parent controls what food is brought in the house, when it's served, and where it's eaten. And the child controls if they're going to eat the food and how much. And we're trying to get the message out to parents that this is a healthy division of responsibilities that will let children decide how much their bodies need and listen to their internal signals on what types of food to eat and how much to eat it.
So, Andrea, when it comes to Halloween...
I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah. Talk about it in the Halloween context, Andrea. How much responsibility do you give a child, and maybe it depends on the child, to control their consumption? I mean, my brother's candy would be gone in 3 days. He'd be eating it at bedtime, 3 in the morning. Who knows? It was gone. Mine would last for 4 weeks. Do you gauge it on the child and determine what they can handle responsibly?
I think Halloween's a great teaching opportunity, and the same things that we're going to do as parents to help kids regulate their consumption of junk food in everyday life is the same thing we're going to say about Halloween. So to your point, Judy, about the Ellen Satter method of feeding, it's very much supported in mostly the nutrition and parenting field as a great way to go about eating. And so if we look at that applied to Halloween, kids are going to come home with that sack full of candy, and the Ellen Satter method would say, okay, feed them a great meal before Halloween, make sure they're going out nourished. When they come home, have them spread out their candy and relish and celebrate all the good awesomeness that they just, brought home, and just let them have what they want there. And you may be surprised that if you take the pressure and the regulation off, limiting there, one of two things is going to happen. It's not going to be a big deal. They'll eat a bit, and the novelty will start to, they'll spread it out at a duration they're going to want to. Or the other thing that's going to happen is they're going to eat way too much. They're going to feel sick, and it's a wonderful teaching opportunity.
It's great. It's like adults, we all need to learn how much alcohol we can take in, and that's a way kids can too. But with my 5 kids, I noticed part of the appeal was they loved opening packages and sorting and trading, and they ate a bit, but the more fun was in the organization of all their little candy things.
Judy, some parents go so far as to try to manage the consumption by bribing kids with a trade for money or toys, or hiding it or taking it behind their backs. What does that do to a child's relationship with food and treats?
Well, when you look at it in terms of the feeding relationship, if parents have taken kids out and they brought the candy in the home, the parents have already done the what part. They have decided candy is going to be brought in the home. And they really should be hands off and let the child decide how much they're going to eat. They're still trying to micromanage and control it when they talk the child into giving it up to the switch witch who comes and exchanges it for a toy. But they're disallowing the child the ability to control and develop that self-control on how much they're going to eat. And I think parents, if you're going to bring it in the house, then definitely get your child's consent on whether they want to switch it or sell it to the local dentist for money. But I think the child needs to be in control of that part.
Andrea,
I agree 100%.
Is it unwise,
Most of the
Andrea?
picky eating struggles that we see tend to be related to that control issue. So whenever possible, when we can give kids a bit of a choice, but frame the choice in a couple of options, I think we're teaching them just great skills for so many aspects in life.
Andrea, is it unwise to say to a child, if you eat this healthy food, if you eat your broccoli at dinner tonight, you can have XYZ treats after. Is that still okay? I grew up with that. I think a lot of people did. Is that still the way to go?
Well, I'm not a huge fan of that. So food is food at the end of the day. And what we're trying to do is really encourage our kids to try and be exposed to a wide range of things. And if we put some foods on a pedestal as being the most yummy, awesome treats, and then some as like just the healthy, geeky things, I don't necessarily think that's the way we want to approach it either. So really the approach that we use at home with my son and certainly with our clients is, again, coming back to the what, when, and where of food. Structure that. Kids need to know safely and securely that food is always going to be available. It needs to be regular. And once you put a good, healthy spread of good food in place, of course there's going to be opportunities for desserts, but you're not going to, make one sound like this is so much better than the other. I don't know if you agree with that, Judy.
Yeah. When I was on the team putting together the picky eating course for Alberta Health Services, and we even advocated parents put dessert on the same meal plate as the meat and potatoes. And if you trust kids will eat what they need, sometimes they go for the broccoli before the cake. it's pretty interesting.
And you're not villainizing a food for life, I guess, too. You're not making a food something bad that's maybe going to stick with them even into adulthood.
And you bring up a great point in terms of what we see at our nutrition practice. We have, a subset of our practice that are people struggling with their weight, so emotional eating, lots of obesity. And when we look back to sort of maybe where their childhood eating experience started, often they were raised in homes that I would say are either there was no structure, there was no regularity, there was no assurance that food was going to be around, or food was definitely meant more for comfort than it was for good nourishment. And then on the other side of the table, we work with so much eating disorders and disordered eating, and teenage girls that are struggling so much with their relationship with food. And again, they grow up in homes that I call healthorexic homes sometimes. Well-intended parents really wanting to do the right thing with all of these healthy choices, but they don't know how to regulate, what they consider to be bad foods. So they're struggling with, oh no, I just ate, 4 cookies. What do I do about that? And I feel badly about that.
Yeah, the guilt.
The guilt.
Yes.
Andrea, what are the long-term effects if we can't manage dealing with the accessibility to goodies, treats, unhealthy foods? If kids aren't able to, I think you've lost your earpiece. I'll see that now. I'll just pick it up for you. What if we can't help our kids learn to deal with treats that are always going to be in front of them in their adult life? What are the long-term consequences that we're seeing now, health-wise?
I think when we look at it's sometimes not. It's just the lack of good, healthy knowledge and good role modeling by parents that's missing, more so than, they can't regulate their junk food consumption. Chances are, if a parent says, my kid won't eat anything green, my first question is well, do you? And how many times has it even been offered? Sometimes it takes a kid 10 to 20 different times and exposures and multiple different ways in different environments at different times of the day or hunger levels to actually learn to accept a food. So it's just the consistency and the role modeling and just respecting. Sometimes they're not going to eat anything. Sometimes they're going to eat a whole bunch, and they are going to surprise you if you just keep that role modeling coming.
Judy, never force?
Never force?
Force them to eat the broccoli, eat the Brussels sprouts, eat peas if they don't like them.
Yes, definitely. We want to encourage kids to try new foods, but recognize it takes about 15 tries before they might even like the food. And taste buds do change as kids get older. So a food they don't like now may not be a food they dislike later. But, have a no thank you plate on the table and encourage them, take a bite, taste it. If you don't like it, spit it out, put it on the plate. And the worst thing you can do is get into power struggles over eating. And that happens either through bribery or punishing kids when they don't eat. And you don't want to do that. You want to put the social connection back into gathering for a meal for dinner. And kids determine how much is going in their bodies.
Right.
And if you look at what they eat over a month, they eat pretty good, don't they?
It's funny, even with my son who's 3, sometimes he'll eat like an adult-sized portion of oatmeal, and then, the next time we have oatmeal, it's very little, and it's all about the fruit. So, again, offer great, balanced, healthy choices, but really, Judy and I are on the same page here. Let them drive how much they're going to take in.
Thank you both for all of your insights, expertise, and suggestions tonight. Judy Arnall is a certified parent educator with Professional Parenting Canada, and Andrea Holwegner is a registered dietitian with Health Stand Nutrition Consulting.